My next guest has a proven track record defending free speech from its enemies. In his first year as Missouri Attorney General, he has sued the Biden administration for their censorship schemes in a case that will be heard by the Supreme Court. Now he's turning his attention to another target, a virulent left-wing organization called Media Matters, for their efforts to shut down free speech on X, formerly known as Twitter. I want you to give a great big welcome to Missouri's Attorney General Andrew Bailey. General, good to have you with us. Thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. Most people probably never even heard of Media Matters, but tell us what it is that they're doing that you find very, not just offensive, but destructive to our way of life and to freedom in this country.
Well, Governor, I think it's important that we start by addressing the fact that the First Amendment right to free speech is the bedrock of who we are as a nation. And Missouri's been in that fight since I've been Attorney General and will continue to be in that fight. This is about protecting Missourians from deceptive, fraudulent schemes to manipulate the marketplace to attack the last platform dedicated to free speech in America. The evidence that we've uncovered and that has been presented in other lawsuits is that Media Matters, a radical, progressive, tyrannical group, masquerading as a news outlet. They're a 501c3, not a news outlet. That they took controversial speech and juxtaposed it with prominent advertisers on X in order to bully those advertisers into pulling out of X. Now, the question is, why would a 501c3 masquerading as a media outlet want to manipulate the marketplace to do that? They can't control Twitter, X, so they hate it. And that's the problem. They're attacking the last platform dedicated to free speech in America, and we can't let them deceive Missourians in the process of them manipulating the market.
But in the course of doing this, you're really fighting for every American. It's not just the people of your state that are going to benefit from this lawsuit. You're showing that there is a concerted effort, use the word conspiracy, I guess, if you would, to try to silence the voices of dissent against the deep state actors who would absolutely shut down the voices of anybody who disagrees with their left-wing nonsense.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. You know, the First Amendment protects the battlefield of ideas. We're competing viewpoints.
I love that phrase, battlefield of ideas. Haven't heard that before. I'm going to quote you often.
Well,
unlike Claudine Gray at Harvard, I will actually give you credit for the comment, though.
It's cowards who can't win with their ideas on the battlefield of ideas who have to suppress speech. And that's acknowledged by the First Amendment. We put a stop to President Biden's vast censorship enterprise in the case of Missouri v. Biden, which will be heard at the United States Supreme Court here in the coming days. But this is a new front in the war for free speech, where, again, radical progressive groups masquerading as not-for-profits will use corporate pressure campaigns to attack anyone they disagree with. They can't win the debate, so they have to silence voices in opposition. We can't let that happen. This is a fight worth making here and now.
And that's kind of what we're seeing with the whole effort at the part of states like Colorado and Maine to disqualify Donald Trump from the ballot. They're afraid they can't defeat him with votes, so if they disqualify him, make it impossible for people to vote for someone they want to vote for, they win the election by default. I mean, when I hear Joe Biden talk about threats to democracy, I'm thinking, what is a greater threat than that?
Yeah, dripping with irony, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the very people that claim to be trying to protect our democratic republic are the ones undermining the rule of law that protects all of us equally in an attempt to achieve a radical left-wing political objective. And it's harmful. It's harmful to who, it's not who we are as Americans.
So what can you hope to win in the lawsuit? If you succeed in this lawsuit against Media Matters, what happens then?
Well, again, at the end of the day, we're going to use the tools, the law at our disposal, the laws that are on the books today. We're going to protect Missourians from a fraudulent scheme. If this 501c3 was soliciting contributions from Missourians under false pretenses, the state statute, we can use that to hold them accountable. But there's a bigger issue here. And again, this is about a conspiracy to form a combination and restraint of trade, which violates antitrust laws.
Yeah.
This is a radical progressive group that is manipulating the marketplace. Who benefited from that? And we need answers to those questions to determine which body of law best applies to the facts.
Isn't this election interference, General? I mean, when I think about what we're talking about, if a media company can suppress information that would help voters make an informed decision, and if they can then give them utter misinformation that would make them think that this side is doing great things, that Bidenomics is working, whatever they wanted to present, it could be the other side. But the point is, what in the world is that if it isn't election interference?
Well,
why isn't there some charge for not filing election law requirements because they are electioneering at that point.
I completely agree. And, that's why the case of Missouri v. Biden was so important. We uncovered that the Department of Justice was in possession of the Hunter Biden laptop 1 year before the 2020 election and certainly knew of its authenticity, yet planted the seed of doubt in big tech social media that there was going to be a Russian disinformation campaign related to Hunter Biden. And so the big tech was more than willing to censor that story on the eve of the election. Again, that was information the American voting public needed to have as they moved to the ballot box. So the deep state has already proven that they will manipulate information and deprive Americans of information to interfere with our elections. What the Missouri v. Biden suit is all about is ultimately building a wall of separation between tech and state to protect our First Amendment rights from government censorship. But again, Media Matters has presented a new front in this war. This is a guerrilla operation.
Yeah.
We're no longer fighting conventional linear combat against a known enemy. They are manipulating a marketplace. So I completely agree with you. As state attorneys general, we've got to remain vigilant in this fight to protect the citizens of our states and our constitutional freedoms.
The real battle that's going on that I see in America right now is not happening in Washington. It's not being done by the House members or Senate, God bless their souls. It's being done at the state level by attorneys general across the country who are filing the lawsuits that are forcing information to come forward. I don't think a lot of Americans understand that's where the battlefield has become.
Yeah, completely agree. I think that, in all sorts of different fronts, it's certainly the fight for our constitutional freedoms, and the First Amendment being one of those. We see that in the context of the Second Amendment as well. But it's also against the rise of the administrative state. There is no sanction in the United States Constitution for a fourth branch of government that has rule-making authority, rule enforcing authority, and rule interpreting authority. I didn't vote for the undersecretary of the EPA, and yet somehow that person has a lot of power and control over how we live our daily lives. And so it's important that state attorneys general use the power of the judicial process to keep that in check and to prevent federal overreach by the administrative state.
This case that's before the Supreme Court, the one that will deal with companies like Facebook and others that conspired with the government, and they sat down and figured out, okay, here's what we need to tell the American people. What's the impact of that?
I think it's enormous. Again, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals has opined that this is the biggest First Amendment suit in this nation's history. We've done preliminary discovery, 20,000 pages of documents, numerous depositions. We've uncovered a relationship of coercion and collusion between federal officials and big tech social media targeting conservative voices exclusively for censorship. What the Fifth Circuit Court found, well, first of all, we put on evidence back in May, obtained a nationwide injunction. Again, the first brick in that wall of separation between tech and state to protect our right to free speech. We've successfully defended it at the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals twice. And what the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals found was that those censorship algorithms that were changed to boot conservatives off of big tech, those were done to satisfy the federal officials' demands. So nothing short of the soul of our nation, our ability to have free, fair, and open debate is at stake in this case, and I'm confident in our ultimate success on this issue.
It is disturbing beyond my description to think that the federal government has sat down and told a media company, here's what you need to do to silence the voices of people who disagree with us, the government. I mean, what kind of world is that? That's third world banana republic stuff. General, I want to tell you, I'm not kidding. It's what you guys are doing at the state level, filing these lawsuits, getting the information, forcing it to go to an open court that is maybe the most important way to save this great republic. God bless you, and thank you for your efforts. I hope America appreciates what you're doing for us.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you.
God bless you. I have a feeling you're going to want to keep up with Attorney General Andrew Bailey on social media. He's fighting for you to protect all of us and uphold the Constitution. To get more information, go to Huckabee.tv. We'll give you the details and tell you how to connect. Hey, Mike Huckabee here. Listen, if you love your mom, apple pie, and being conservative, you know you ought to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and click the like button, and show all the leftists out there that conservatives are thriving and patriotism is far from dead. Am I pandering too much? No way. I'm just getting started.